Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, what a pleasure to meet at this year Toronto Global Forum. What I love the most about this conference is how we can be exposed to a wide variety of challenge, principle, debates, and success stories that could change the world. This year's theme is Charting a New Economy. The past few months have certainly come with its share of significant challenges, but also of opportunities to chart a different direction for the new economy. I am inviting you to consider now other aspects of a new economy, how AI is a concrete ally in making those changes for real. In just a few years, AI integration has gone from experimental to established process for many applications. Despite the pandemic, or perhaps somewhat because of it, the train has sharply accelerated. Every day, AI demonstrates its value in addressing challenges such as supply chain resiliency or labor shortage, in addition to helping to improve our environmental performance by optimizing production or transportation. In recent years, supply chains have become sustainably more challenging to manage. Longer and increasing interlinked physical flows reflect the rising complexity of product portfolio. Market volatility, which has increased with the COVID-19 pandemic, climate anomalies, geopolitics, has elevated the need for agility and flexibility, and increased attention on the environmental impact of supply chain is triggering regionalization and the optimization of flows. As a result, companies and stakeholders have become more focused on supply chain resilience. Supply chain management solutions based on AI are expected to be strong instruments to help organizations tackle these challenges. An integrated end-to-end approach can address the opportunities and constraints of all business functions, from procurement to sales. AI ability to analyze huge volumes of data, understand relationships, provide visibility into operations, and support better decision-making makes AI a potential game changer. Getting the most out of these solutions is not simply a matter of technology, however. Companies must take steps also in their organization to capture the full value from AI. The supply chain is the web linking together multiple functions, including logistics, production, procurement, and marketing and sales. Integrated planning enables companies to balance trade-off across function and optimize earnings for the organization as a whole. The supply chain function must now operate as a central cross-functional brain within large corporations. In many organizations, supply chain management has shifted to concentrate on dynamically optimizing the company global value rather than simply improving the performance of local functions. In several process industries, such as chemical, agricultural, metal mining, sales and operation planning has evolved into integrated business planning. The recent supply chain disruption and demand triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic have further amplified the need for companies to develop their central planning muscles. Enhancing the relevance and size of supply chain or business plan teams is not enough to achieve better performance. Companies must tackle several additional challenges: predicting demand across multiple product segments and geographies, dynamically identify trade-offs with hundreds of thousands of interlinked variables and technical constraints, integrating AI solutions such as processing optimization, predictive maintenance, or master data quality to manage the wider value chain. Ensuring that plans get executed and can adapt to variability effects such as demand shocks, production stoppage, and transportation disruption in a timely manner. The good news is that AI-based solutions are available and accessible to help companies achieve next-level performance in supply chain management. Solution features include demand forecasting models, end-to-end transparency, integrated business planning, dynamic planning optimization, automation of the physical flow, all of which built on prediction models and correlation analysis to better understand cause and effect in supply chain. Many research say that successful implementing AI-enabled supply chain management has enabled early adopters to improve logistic costs by 15%, inventory levels by 35%, and service level by 65% compared with slower moving competitor. Given the significant value at stake, multiple solutions have emerged. Both incumbent IT vendors and market disruptors are entering the game. New offerings include demand planning, recommendation engine, promo optimization, real-time inventory management, and dynamic margin optimization of end-to-end change with digital twins. For example, retail and e-commerce are at the forefront of demand prediction. Selecting the right solution is critical. To manage the complexity of today's supply chain, new solutions need to be smartly designed and adapted to specific business cases. They also need to fit well with the organization's strategy. This alignment enables companies to tackle key decision-making points with adequate level of insight while avoiding unnecessary complexity. However, implementation can require significant time and investment in both technology and people, meaning the stakes are high to get it right. Transforming a supply chain is an ambitious undertaking, and companies should be fully aware of the challenges. However, the potential benefits are significant. Companies that are able to manage 4 specific areas in tandem will be positioned to achieve far greater visibility and better decision-making, all powered by AI. 1. Value creation, identification, strategy, roadmap. 2. Design of target solution and vendor selection. 3. Implementation and system integration. 4. Change management, capability building. Value creation, identification, roadmap. As a first step, company needs to identify and prioritize all pockets of value creation across all functions, from procurement and manufacturing to logistic and ultimately commercial. This exercise can ensure companies have an accurate list of all the value creation opportunities. Clearly defining a digital supply chain strategy helps support the company's business strategy and ensures better alignment with its digital program. In addition, a solution agnostic assessment enables companies to identify the process redesign, organizational changes, and capabilities required to boost performance, as well as create a strategic roadmap. 2. Design of target solution and vendor selection. The complexity of supply chain, from demand forecasting to planning optimization and digital execution tracking, means that finding one provider that can meet all of these needs is increasingly unlikely. Solution design and vendor selection can help support the digital supply chain strategy. Often, the best approach is a combination of different solutions from different providers. implemented by different system integrators. Companies that select a suite of solutions must make integration a top priority. Implementation and system integration. Many companies haven't had sufficient experience in implementing organization-wide technology. Only very little supply chain leaders reported feeling their objectives are aligned with the initiative of their system integrators. Companies should take a holistic approach to implementation and system integration. By optimizing the end-to-end value, companies can implement solutions that deliver value in the short term and are more sustainable over the long term. 4, change management, capability building, and full value capture. Even while focusing on tech solution, companies must attend the vital supporting elements such as organization, change management, and capability building. This task is a common challenge. For example, only a few executives report that their organizations are sufficiently prepared to address their skills gap. To ensure adoption of new solutions, companies must invest in change management and capability building. Employees will need to embrace new ways of working, and a coordinated effort is required to educate the workforce on why changes are necessary, as are insensitive to enforce the desired behaviors. AI will be able to provide teams with deeper insight at a much higher frequency and granularity than ever. However, this visibility alone will not be enough to capture more value from AI-based supply chain solution. Any sizable technology investment must be matched by organizational changes, business process updates, and upskilling efforts. Only then will company capture the expected ROI. Today, we have in the panel, we have Jack Cléa, who is VP at IVADO Labs, and he's done about 25 projects, so he will introduce your guests. Your guests have all had a successful AI journey. Welcome. Go ahead, Jack. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Hélène. First of all, a round of applause. It's a long day, and I'm happy that you decided to stay for this panel because, in my mind, it's one of the panels that is among the most important because it will be reshaping how we live our lives in the future. And the guests we have here today are driving that change. And driving the change, as mentioned by Hélène, is not easy. Yes, there's methodologies, there's technology that's available, but many panelists throughout the day mention one thing. It's not all about the technology. It's about the will. It's about the change management. So we want to give you real examples. We want to be honest here and mention what it really takes to embrace this new technology truly in your operations. So let's start it off. We have Milena Kumurdjieva, who's AVP, Advanced Analytics, AI, and Automation Enablement at Canadian Tire. We have Nabil Batley, who's Chief Strategy Officer at Flybits. And we have Philip Wong, Radiation Oncologist, Assistant Director of Ambulatory Care at Princess Margaret Cancer Center, UHN. So let's start off with you, Milena. Canadian Tire has a long history. If you're Canadian, you know what Canadian Tire is, you know what Tim Hortons is, and Canadian Tire has been around for 100 years. You had to evolve, you had to change, adapt with the time. So how is AI shaping that right now?
Thank you, Jack. You're correct. Canadian Tire is actually celebrating its 100th birthday this year, which is a huge milestone for the company. People often think that 100 years old companies are not innovative. I tend to disagree. I think in order to become a 100 years old company, you have to be innovative. So I have seen several business processes embrace AI in our organization. And just to give you a few examples, AI is now part of our business in forecasting, Assortment optimization for the automotive parts business. We use AI for our loyalty and customer insights, as well promo optimization and IT security. One of the recent initiatives to bring the technology is a product called Tetris that we developed internally, and this is a product for our space planning team. We are using AI to automate the build of store-specific planograms. It is basically a type of on-demand image generation that is based on forecasts and assortment. And the image in this case is the planogram. And for those of you who don't know what a planogram is, that's basically a map of the products that are shown within the store on the retail shelves. And you might think that's not necessarily a very complex problem, but when you have 500 different stores, and each store carries different assortments, and each store operates in a different market with store-specific demands, customers that are having different patterns and shopping behaviors, it's really beneficial to be able to provide the store and the dealers with the flexibility to be able to create their own planograms for their specific space. So what we've done is we actually built a product like this. And the solution that we've created allows the dealers and our 500 plus stores and their merchandising teams to customize and create on-demand planograms. Those planograms take into consideration the local market that they operate in, some seasonality changes, the space each store has. You've been into Canadian Tire stores, most of you. You've seen stores seem similar, but not quite the same. And different inventory available, as well as the desired assortment that each store might want to market to their customers. What we are hoping to get out of this is really to reduce lost sales due to stockouts. We want to also reduce labor costs from replenishing suboptimal supply on shelves, and ultimately we want to improve the customer experience.
Perfect. So this is a true example, it's a meaningful example, and let's turn it to you, Phil. You cannot become more real than trying to use AI during the pandemic at a hospital. So this is exactly what Phil and your team has done.
Yeah, so thanks for inviting me here. So when COVID hit, many of our hospital resources were diverted towards the sick patients, the ICU, the internal medicine ward. And many, as you know, hospital capacity has always been at 100%. Basically, we're working all the time at 100%. There's no buffer in the system. So COVID became the straw that broke the camel's back. And so once we diverted these resources to other places, how do we continue to treat cancer patients? And so that's where we started to work with IVADO Labs to try and formulate a plan as well as an algorithm to help us take a look with a bird's eye view. What are the cancer patient cases that are coming through the system? How should we triage and prioritize different patients according to the severity of their cancer so that we can minimize the tangential side effects of COVID on cancer patients across our UHN Princess Margaret system? And so at the end, we basically came up with an algorithm that's capable of basically looking through the entire system, streamline the system so that patients that can actually go from point A to point B faster, and yet not to the detriment to the actual system's efficiency. So that in the future, should this be another problem in the future, we may have a bit more buffering capacity to deal with these consequences.
It's hard to follow this one, but Nabil, the question will be about Flybits. So Flybits is not a household name like Canadian Tire, but many of us are interacting with it every single day. Can you tell us a bit more about this?
Yes, absolutely. So I think as Flybits, we prefer to be the coaches behind the winning teams. So when we look at the global banking arena, many of the global banks are powered by our technology, and we power their mobile estates. And the idea really is to create a branch in your pocket. So leveraging the disparate sources of data that banks have, and banks, of course, as you know, have the richest trove of data across any organization, and they often struggle to be able to assimilate it and to create optimal interactions. Leverage AI, machine learning capabilities to predict, personalize, preempt engagements for customers. A lot of the activity that happens with banks on the AI side is done by technology, with limited involvement of the business. So when it comes to value accretive use cases, it's often the IT that's kind of leading that initiative. So from our perspective, it's about bringing all of those really rich data sources, putting them together in a fairly simplistic manner, to be able to add maximum value for the interactions that customers have with their banks. And it's interesting how when you look at other industries, they've been Uberized to a great extent. So you have Ubers, Amazons, Netflix, where there's a lot of custom interactions and optimized engagement with customers. The banking industry is now starting to get this ingrained, and we're very proud to be associated with a number of these organizations, including some very large organizations in Canada, to bring that optimal experience to the financial sector.
Milena, adopting AI is not a flip of a switch. Can you tell us the journey that Canadian had to take to get to this point?
Yes, that's correct. Whoever has started an AI journey probably has learned a lot of lessons. How you get to an AI solution is not always obvious and easy to understand. So at the beginning, it requires a little bit of a leap of faith to trust the outputs of the algorithm. And in some cases, the results that are actually backed by data are quite different than what people are used to see or what the manual practices have been. So there is challenges with like driving the adoption of the AI products at the early stages. And change management is all sometimes quite of a hurdle. What we have done to overcome some of those challenges is, first of all, we go through multiple iterations of proof of concept, proof of value, multiple MVPs before the product is ready for prime time. But one of the techniques that we found helps a lot is, before going into the complex AI solutions, to actually establish a simple and explainable heuristic that helps the clients understand where we are going with our solution. Other approaches that we've taken is, as you all know, the field of AI is constantly evolving. So we have invested in building an ecosystem of partners to help us stay current. So we've been very actively working with universities, Creative Destruction Lab, Scale AI, IVADO Labs, Vector Institute, just to name a few, in order for us to continue build our internal knowledge. The other strategy that we've implemented is huge investments into our cloud infrastructure and our data strategy. We are dealing with a lot of large volumes of data, so we need the power of the cloud. But like having the right data, the proper definitions, the ownership and governance for the data really gives us the foundation and the confidence that what we are creating as output is trustworthy.
Another big topic for adoption is availability of data. And if you look into the healthcare system, you're cranking it up to 11 because it's critical data. So you had the wonderful challenge of going through that. Can you tell us a bit more about it and how it could be improved?
The difficulty in our project is not so much the project itself, it's starting the project, getting the trust from the institution to allow outside entity to be touching the data within healthcare. That in itself was the hardest part for us to break through. Getting all the legal work going through, ensuring that the privacy committee is okay with IVADO Lab coming in. Because in healthcare, the privacy of the patient is untouchable. This is something that cannot be leaked out, and therefore ensuring that all these hoops and barriers are checkmarked and good to go was the hardest part of it all. How we went through it is probably just daily hassling, connecting with upper echelon to as much as we could, having the upper authority be on board and convincing them that this is the way we should be doing because we have an urgent situation where we need urgent intervention. And I think once everybody's lined up, then we're able to go.
Nabil, each industry has its own challenges. We heard a few, but they tend to be common challenges. So how does Flybit help its customers to accelerate that journey?
Thanks, Jack. It's a great question. So I'd probably talk about three things. The first and foremost would be not all technology programs or projects within large enterprises are core to the business. They're not core differentiators. Often, and when you look at the financial sector, the knowledge and the know-how that exists for technology, AI, data-related programs is limited. So we help our customers look beyond just the internal organization. So instead of just looking internally to build capabilities to have these programs, how do you go outside, find the right partners? IVADO Labs is a great example. Scale AI is another one that we have a program with. So getting the right people to help you with your data strategy, which is an anchor point for any good AI program, that's one. I think the second one is for senior leadership in these organizations to be open and vulnerable to learning, to looking at different perspectives, to bringing their teams up to speed when it comes to really looking at AI, machine learning, and all these capabilities as it would drive their business. So these are not programs in themselves, but they are enablers for you to drive business and drive the future of your proposition, and hence that's how these should be looked at. So there's no shame in not having all the answers internally and going outside to seek the best answers. And number three, I would say it's about quantifying certain initiatives, programs versus becoming obsolete as an industry or losing against competition. So when financial industry looks at risk, this is also a big risk. So when you don't invest in the right data strategy, you don't invest in the right AI strategy that sits on top of that, there is a big risk that you run, keeping your business competitive, keeping your customers happy. So it needs to be really kind of evaluated from a very tangible perspective when it comes to these initiatives.
And all these topics, we'll be switching to the next theme after this one, but all these topics suggest that there is no secret recipe other than going at it and trying it out and learning on your own, because everyone has unique challenges, everyone has to overcome specific things, but you have to get started. So on this topic, assuming we all get started and get going on our AI projects, how do you think AI is going to reshape the retail industry?
So in the case of retail, And that's been a theme in the last couple of years as well. I think localization and personalization will continue to give companies a huge competitive advantage. In the case of Canadian Tire, in particular, our dealer and store network allow us to understand the communities we are serving. I don't know if you're aware, but 9 out of 10 Canadians live within 15 minutes from a Canadian Tire store. So that's a huge advantage that Canadian Tire has. And AI strengthens that advantage through bringing data insights. I see us continuing to move away from one-size-fits-all into individualized experiences. There is a lot of talk about this, like in many areas. But for us, I think that's very important as well. And we will continue to be focused on assortment and inventory. From a strategy point of view, our approach is to continue building on 3 major capabilities. We will continue accelerating through partnerships, and that includes startups. We want to tap into the innovative potential within the organization. So we want to really engage our existing employees into community of practice. We launched this year a community of practice for advanced analytics and AI. And really the goal is to touch all levels of the organization, both for idea generation as well as raising the awareness and the understanding what AI can bring to each one of the teams, to the organization as a whole. And the third area and capability that we've been focusing a lot and integrating and productionizing AI products at scale. A lot of times companies start an idea, they go through a proof of concept, and then when it gets to productionizing and integrating that solution within legacy systems, there is quite a bit of complexity. So we've been building internal knowledge as well through the projects we've been working on, patterns and architectures to allow us to expedite that productionizing and integration of solutions. And a lot of the ideas are coming from the automation space, and sometimes people say everything that can be automated should be automated. Our philosophy is that only the things that should be automated we will look at versus like everything that is possible. And this is where we're looking for the problems that are worth solving. And also in the case of Canadian Tire, we want to build solutions that are applicable to more than one banner. Like, for example, we've built a product for Canadian Tire Retail. Can we apply this solution to SportCheck or to Marks? And last point that I would like to make for this question is like tracking and celebrating successful AI implementations. That will really excite people and make the adoption much easier.
Those are great points, and I want to come back on the point of the expectations of the consumers who are being shaped by personalization, localization, and we're without a doubt all going to be consumers one way or another of the healthcare system. So what do you think it takes, Phil, to help shape the healthcare industry with AI? Is there a way of actually doing it?
So I guess we already have set an example as to how to integrate AI into optimizing the flow of patients through the hospital. But I guess there's a lot more role to AI, not just in terms of data management and data analysis of, let's say, one person's genomics. But potentially AI could be integrated to have a smarter model of healthcare, whereby right now we love patients coming to the hospital centralized care and then deliver care from the hospital. But I do believe that in order for a more personalized care, a care that is potentially more sustainable, because we found that 99% of our delivery of radiation medicine is related to carbon dioxide output. So by having patients stay at home and being able to safe keep them at home, monitor them at home using novel technologies, be it an app or wearables, and having the ability to integrate AI and data informatics in there to have a better ability to predict the outcome of patients or to monitor patients before bad things happen, we can potentially deliver better care. This has been proven actually in France and US, whereby they use very clunky questionnaires and phone calls of patients ahead of time to make sure that the patients are okay at home. And they found that by doing that, they were able to improve the survival of patients who were getting chemotherapy for cancer. So why can't we be doing that using simple wearable technologies or smartphones? So I think that we need to move away from a hospitalized-centric healthcare to a more democratized healthcare system, whereby every being across the whole of Canada will have equal access to care. And I love how you said that you have a Canadian Tire every 15 minutes away. Right now, that is not the case with regards to healthcare. Patients have to travel far and away to get to the central tertiary care center. But why can't we deliver the same care outside in the satellites? So that's how I see the role of AI coming in.
So Nabil, you mentioned that there's a wealth of information, wealth of data and insights locked up in the banking industry. Where do you see things going next?
Yeah, this is very, very personally exciting for me, this particular topic. And I think Madame Desmarais pointed out to this whole supply chain challenge that as a world we're seeing during COVID and prior due to economic challenges. One of the major triggers for that is the funding between the bank and the small medium enterprises, and the whole cycle or the process of supply chain tends to break down, and that's because banks are not comfortable with extending credit to small companies who have limited assets, don't have cash flows, and so on. So it is our hypothesis that the future of collateral will be data, it will be insight, and essentially you will have a method in which multiple organizations will work with a bank that's funding the supply chain, will have visibility of the whole supply chain process in a way to be able to train real models or models that are using real data based on demand and the reality of the supply chain versus academic predictions. And so you will have a future where you don't have hypothecated collateral, you don't have cash flows that are being looked at by a bank to give you credit, but essentially a method in which you can look at the entire supply chain process and have confidence and comfort in that process. So we at Flybits are delighted to be funded by a program from Scale AI. We have a consortium in which we have TD, Seva Logistics, which is the second largest logistics company in North America. And the idea is to create this data portability and insight sharing protocol that is privacy preserved, to be able to sense the evolution or the movement of the supply chain, and to create models that can then underwrite or can be used as underwriting for credit. So I'd say there are three aspects of this that we hope to achieve. One is simplify the whole credit adjudication process using insight and data versus traditional methods. Number two, enable banks, large banks, to enhance their credit appetite towards small businesses, which struggle with providing collateral or providing cash flows or providing other rudimentary methods of security. And the third, equally important one would be to give better terms and pricing to these SMEs as part of that process. So if we're able to kind of achieve this or prove out this hypothesis and get this into commercial use, I think we will be in a scenario where supply chain disruptions, which are related to credit being pulled from the ecosystem, will be something that will be in the past. So very, very excited and very very lucky to have very strong partners and of course support from Scale to make this happen.
We hope this panel inspired you to be maybe a bit more vulnerable about approaching AI, because we talk about everything that is possible. We make people dream, and then you got to start doing it. So it's not an easy journey. It's an exponential learning curve. And before we maybe close the panel, we wanted to gauge the audience a little bit. How many of you are actually using AI in your company or your entity right now? Good. So see, it's still not the majority, right? We hope that in the coming years, when we come back, we're going to see many more raised hands, because it's important to get started, right? There's no way to adopt AI if you don't get started. It's not going to happen. And if it does, it might be happening by your competitor, and then it's too late. So we want to close this panel and give a round of applause for our great guests.